What's up YouTube, Dayham's of Wargames, and as requested by Bobby Hamilton, this is the Zing True King deck profile that I've been working on for a little bit. Now, a misconception of the Zings is that you can destroy them in hand with the True Kings and still get their effects. Unfortunately, that is not the case. The Zings, you need to control them in order to get their effects off engrave. However, that does not mean that you can't have them on board. Destroy them with a True King effect, resolve the True King effect, get the effect of the Zing, and then if you've got creation, refill your board to push you forward either into a True King of all calamities or into a very powerful synchro monster, while also having a very powerful level 9 on board. So without further ado, I'm going to take you through this deck and show you what we've got. I do apologise for the different sleeves. It is because some of these cards, such like Ash Blossom and that, go into different decks, and the majority of testing for this deck has been online. Anyway, I'll zoom out a little bit so you can see more of the deck. So we play 3 Jital, Darkness of the Zing. This is the most important Zing monster, the discard to get you straight into a Zing kind of synchro play. Now what I have found that is best with these is synchro during your turn to go all out. If you're going in for game or you feel that whatever you're putting on board is going to disrupt your opponent enough, then do so. Otherwise, use and abuse their ability to synchro during your opponent's main phase or battle phase to disrupt them as best as possible. So go into your Baxia, go into your Chow Fen, anything that will disrupt your opponent during their turn is best saved to be done so. 2 Chaiwen, obviously you can play 3 if you want, but because the attribute of light isn't as useful for the destruction through the True Kings, on top of that, you don't really need to use and abuse it as much because you can revive it from grave and then of course it gets banished. But if you do its revival from grave, or you make sure you shuffle it back in with your path, it's really not required at 3. Triple Bixie, this obviously gives your synchro monsters immunity to traps, which is kind of good under Altergeist or facing Altergeist, but isn't as relevant right now in this meta. Suwani, now obviously with the Bixies as well, as same as Suwani, because it's a fire attribute and a water attribute, they actually help contribute towards your True Kings, so they are probably the more important ones of the two. Obviously Suwani gives an extra 500 to your synchro monster, as well as being your 1900 beta. Double Bian, now obviously we would have Triple Bian if we had Lithosagan, but unfortunately we don't, but Double Bian is more than enough. The one Pulau, this one, you could play it more if you want to, but it's not really that great. It's only for the Mariamne True King play, but it's not as useful, to be totally honest, which is why we don't play as many Mariamne. If you wanted to bump up the Palau, then of course you can bump up the Mari as well. And then finishing off the Zings, we've got the one as a brand new Secret Zing as a 2600 defender to kind of slow your opponent down. The level 6 to help push you into certain synchro plays of 7 or 8 if you needed to. And on top of that, you can even go into your 9s quite easily. You can play Treasure of the Zing if you want to. But again, that comes down to your personal preference. It is an option to play, but the attribute doesn't really help out the True King engine itself. Now for the True Kings, we've got Triple Brastos, the water one. Obviously popping this gets you Special Summon 1 from deck, which is very, very useful. And being a water with the Bixie, you can probably get its effect off if you wanted to. Triple Agamazoo, again, because we've got the fires in play and the banish effect, you can cut this down to 2 if you want to. It depends on how consistent you want the True King engine to be. Like I said, take one of these out for a treasure, or you take it out for a second Mariamne. But really for this one, we're popping it for the search to get another True King in our hand. So we could basically pop this with Diagram, and then we search out an Agamazoo and a Barastos. Then you activate Agamazoo's effect, pop in a Sawani on field, special summoning out the Agamazoo, pop in the Barastos. Barastos will then special summon a second Agamazoo from your deck, or the Mariamne if you haven't already done this. Your Sawani will then special summon another one from your deck. What you'll be careful of is if you do have creation, you can only go into synchro monsters, so you'll just be leaving yourself with 2 beaters on board with a possible synchro play off of Sawani, or you recycle the Sawani, go into VFD, then you can activate the creation play and start moving your place forward. It really depends on what you want to use. For the hand traps, we've got Ash Blossom because it is the best attribute right now for your Agamazoo plays, and it is of course very, very powerful. If you wanted to put Draw and Lock Bird in there, you'd make the Mariamne a bit more consistent as well, so it's entirely up to you on what hand traps you would like to choose to use. We've then got 3 Zing Path. Now this is a bit questionable. You do burn through your Zings quite quickly, which is why I've gone with 3. But there are times when you might not burn through them as quickly as you expect, and it could become a dead card, so you've got to be very, very careful with the paths. We've also got triple diagram. Again, popping a Yang Zing on board to help circle your plays further forward can always be very, very helpful. It can get you the correct attribute on board that you might need for your True Kings, or of course it just pops them to help you circle round. So it's really, really powerful in this deck. And because it is so important, we do play triple terraforming. We've then got the one Monster Reborn, reviving any of your Synchros, your XYZs, any of your True Kings like that can help you give it an extra board extender to move your plays further forward. Triple Yang Zing creation, again, very, very powerful card. The only issue is you are locked into Synchro monsters from your extra deck, but you can get rid of this with diagrams should you want to when you choose. So you use the ability to special summon out your two Yang Zings. Let's say you've popped off your Yang Zings with a Agamazoo, then you use your diagram to pop this, search out your next card, and you can kind of move your plays further forward that way. And then of course 2 9 Pillars of Yang Zing, incredibly powerful card, very, very useful in this deck, and can cause your opponent a heck of a lot of issues. So this deck has both first turn and second turn opportunities, and being able to disrupt your opponent during their turn with any synchro of your choosing can really, really disrupt the way they play and put you on the front foot straight off the gate, or straight out of the gate I should say. Now on to the extra deck. The extra deck is very, very straightforward and simple on this one, and then it really depends on the way you want to play this. So for our XYZs, you've got of course the True King of all calamities, because it is the most powerful rank 9, and then the Phantom Fortress Enter Blathnir. This can be a second VFD if you wish. For our Link monsters, we've got quite standard ones of Underclock Taker, just to kind of relieve the extra monster zone and give you an additional extra monster zone should you need it. The one Decode Talker and the one Borolo Dragon. Like I said, you don't want to overflood your board or your extra deck with XYZs or stuff that isn't Synchros, because Synchro is where this deck really comes into its own. So of course we've got the Herald of Art Light. This can cause a huge amount of issues for your opponent because everything sent from hand or deck, I believe it is, gets banished, and then you can negate an effect. You make this with Chai Wen and BN, it can't be destroyed by battle, and it can cause your opponent a lot of issues. So it's still very, very important, and serves both the purpose of disrupting during your opponent's turn and being a nice little wall to protect yourself during your turn. Level 6, we've got the Coral Dragon, as well as being a water attribute for your Agamazoo, you also get an additional draw. The Ditch one from hand, should you have any dead cards to pop, is also very, very important. Rose, fire attribute, but also very disruptive during your opponent's turn. If they think they've got everything covered, you can go to Rose, nuke the board and reset the board state. Scarlight, just a kind of late game, especially with the way the time goes. Going into Scarlight, it can burn and destroy all your special summon monsters, revive your Yang Zing monsters, but also deal your opponent huge amounts of damage. I've skipped over a 7, and that is of course Yazi. Is very straightforward and simple in this deck. Then we've got the 2 Bactia. This can be both disruptive during your opponent's turn and your turn. Very, very powerful loop effect as well from the graveyard. You've then got the one Trish, very, very powerful disrupt during your opponent's turn, alongside Chao Feng. Now, knowing what your opponent's coming up against, if they're only playing certain attributes like lights or single attribute decks, then going into Chao Feng can be very, very important and really disrupt your opponent either during their turn when they least expect it, or of course during your turn to start looping around. And then of course once you're destroying their attributes, you get to special summon them attributes from deck. And then of course we've got the Nirvana High Paladin. This can actually do a lot for you, especially with the new time rules. It can cause your opponent a lot of issues. It does require 1 tuner and 1 or more non-tuner synchro monsters, so you have to be very, very cautious of what you use to get into him. But of course for synchro summon you can treat a pendulum summon pendulum monster, but you don't really worry about that. If this card is synchro summoned using a pendulum summon pendulum monster, you can type 1 card in your graveyard, add it to your hand, don't really need to worry about that. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can halve your opponent's life points. If this card is in the monster zone, is destroyed by battle, you can place it in the scale. It doesn't really matter. You're putting out a 3300 beater that is going to be crashing through your opponent. If you do it right, you can get this up to 38. You can also make him immune by traps or immune by battle, really depending on the way you make him. But halving your opponent's life points can be incredibly powerful. Then if you have to link him off to go into Underclock or something like that, and then have the ability to go into Scarlight or VFD or anything like that, you can finish the game off there and then, winning it quite, significantly and quite easily. So that is it for the Yang Zing True King deck profile. It is a very, very fun deck to play. I did play it in a tag this weekend, and I played Dino. My partner played Yang Zings, and I played Dinos, because obviously the Dino Ultimate Conductor had the ability to just pop the Yang Zings when they pleased, and can kind of really disrupt our opponent, especially with the synchro plays as well. So there's definitely a lot you can work around and work with. Anyway, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and until next time, guys, as always, happy dueling. What's up, YouTube? Thanks for watching that video. I hope you liked it. If you did, hit that like button. And of course, don't forget to hit that big red subscribe button in the bottom left-hand corner and the notification bell so you don't miss out on anything. We've got more deck profiles, duels, pack openings, and many more Yu-Gi-Oh videos coming up for you all year round. So don't forget to stay tuned for all of that. Thanks, and as always, guys, happy dueling.